It's been an incredible season, but it's only going to get better. The playoffs are right around the corner, but let's update these power rankings. But here we are with the bottom five, whether it's by the abundance of youth or the amount of injuries these teams have had this year. It hasn't been the year as far as the win-loss column. As far as the Wizards, Hornets, and Jazz, it's their youth. Give them time. They're going to be good a couple years down the line if they can find that superstar. Again, Cooper Flagg is on their radar this offseason, or an Ace Bailey. Outside of that, for Philly and New Orleans, these are teams that had playoff hopes this year. They wanted to at least win a series in the playoffs this year with the additions they made in the previous offseason, but they've been riddled with injuries. And for New Orleans, you made a move at the deadline, getting rid of Brandon Ingram. It's the Zion era. So this offseason is about surrounding Zion with the necessary pieces, also getting healthy with a guy like DeJounte Murray. 21 through 25 is broken down into two different tiers. 21 through 23 are teams that, if they get super hot from the last 8 or 9 games, they're going to put themselves in a really good position to at least be in the play-in. And hey, if they're hot going into the play-in, it's going to help their chances to get to the playoffs as far as momentum carrying over. Now, the Raptors and Nets, it's just not the year. They're kind of in purgatory where they're good, but they're not great. They're far from great, and they're really at this point far from making the play-in. So they're focused on the offseason, and they're focused on getting the gem down the board, or hey, just getting some lottery luck. Let's be honest, right? 16 through 20. These are teams that are probably in the playoff picture one way or another, and they're probably going to be first-round exits, if we're just being completely honest. The Kings at 16, if they can figure out this offense and getting consistent, production offensively from Zach LaVine, this team might be scary in the first round. They might be able to take a game off the Oklahoma City Thunder, just given the fact that Sabonis is a rebounding machine. He's going to dominate Chet and Hartenstein down below. But they need that, perimeter production offensively outside of DeMar DeRozan consistently. And if they can get that, again, Sacramento could be fun to watch out for. They can push a series to 5 instead of 4. There, I'll say that. Dallas, if they had Kyrie Irving, they would no doubt be the scariest team in the play-in for a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder. But there isn't Kyrie anymore. So for the Dallas Mavericks, you have Anthony Davis, a solid group around him. I can't really see you getting a game in the playoffs when you're talking about a team like the Thunder or the Nuggets or the Lakers on the opposite end. If it's the Rockets, I could see maybe AD putting a team on his back and getting a game. Outside of that, the Mavericks, their ceiling is definitely capped now with all the injuries and trades that they have made this year. The Atlanta Hawks are fun to watch. They have potentially the defensive player of the year on their team in Dyson Daniels. At least he's going to be a first-team all-defender. So Atlanta Hawks, they're going to be a fun team. And if they can match up with the Cavaliers, my Cavaliers, I can see them pushing it to a 6-game series if Trey gets hot. For the Suns and the Bulls, maybe the Bulls should be higher than the Suns after the Suns just lost by 30 plus 2 out of the last 5 games. But for the Chicago Bulls, they're one of the funnest teams right now to watch, man. They get up and down. Their pace is there. And Josh Giddey and Kobe White, Montes Buzelis, they're putting the team on their back, and they're having incredible performances on a nightly basis. The Bulls are fun to watch, and honestly, I hope they make the playoffs over the, Miami Heat at this point in time. But now we get into the good teams. The teams that, if everything goes right, or if they have some injuries on the opposing teams, they could win a series, maybe even 2 series. But honestly, I could see these teams really just being very competitive first-round teams, maybe in the second round. But ultimately, these teams aren't title contenders, and that's why they're 11 through 15. The Magic at 15, they have Paolo, they have Franz. How can we make their jobs easy on a nightly basis? Because it seems like every night they have to fight, tooth and nail just to get, 25 to 30 points, where it should come easier, right? We should have the threats on the outside like KCP and Jalen Suggs when he returns that can consistently make the game easier and space the floor for the star players there in Orlando, because we know the defense is there, but can they score 100 plus each night? If they can do that in the playoffs, they're going to be able to maybe shock the world in the first round. Milwaukee, they would be higher, but no Damian Lillard. Is he going to be back this year? Is he not? Hopefully he is, because he's an incredible player. And that duo was figuring it out, man. They were playing their highest level basketball together as a duo, as far as Giannis and Dame. And the surrounding cast was, I guess, revolving around that. But of course, Dame went down with blood clots. Hopefully, he comes back for the playoffs. Again, they could be a fun team in the first round. Memphis at 13. I was super high on this team before the year, and I've talked about it in depth. I wanted to see them make a move, whether if it was a superstar level player like Jimmy Butler or kind of a very quality role player like a Cam Johnson. I wanted them to do something to give an extra piece and a boost to this offense, but they have not done that. So the Memphis Grizzlies, I honestly think no matter who they play, they're going to be first round exits in the Western Conference playoffs. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Pistons, they played yesterday. Granted, no Cade Cunningham. And the Timberwolves came away with a win after going down big early. And a big scuffle happened there between these two teams where like 7 people were ejected, even some coaches like Pablo Prigioni and JB Bickerstaff were even in that mix. They got ejected as well. But for these teams, I'm going to give the edge to Detroit because they were in the game, throughout the entirety of it, but no Cade Cunningham. So you got to think that either of these teams can beat each other on any given night. But honestly, the Pistons, they're fun, and you want to root for them because they're gritty, they're hungry, and they're just a super young team that's trying to make a point. So for the Pistons, I like them there. Minnesota, I've talked about it in depth. I just don't think that they have enough around Anthony Edwards offensively to keep up with other contenders in the Western Conference to make a run to the Western Conference Finals, let's say like they did last season, right? Cat was a huge and pivotal part in that run. Moving into the top 10, these are teams that can legitimately, I could see all 10 of these teams making it at least to the second round, but I can also see a path where these teams make it to the Western Conference Finals. Again, if everything goes right, and Eastern Conference Finals for that matter. The Pacers, they did it last year. Now, did they have the most favorable path to the Eastern Conference Finals out of any team? Absolutely. They ran into a lot of injuries on that route. But I will say this, they're getting hot at the right time, and they're 7-3 or 8-2 in their last 10 games. This offense is coming around, and playoff Hallie offensively, it has been returning. He's turning that switch just like he did a season ago, and if they can get that playoff Tyrese Halliburton offensively this year yet again, I can see it, man, because their pace offensively is the reason I believe they can legitimately beat anybody in a one-game setting. Because if they make their shots with the pace that they play, with the heart and the intensity on defense that has improved this year compared to last, the Pacers can beat anybody on a one-game night or on a one-game setting. It's the questions with this team is the 7-game series, right? I will say this. I do think that I think at least 3 teams in the Eastern Conference beat them in a 7-game series, and that's why they're at number 10. But again, the Pacers, they showed us last year, and I was behind that train, by the way. This year, I can see them maybe making it to the second round and pushing a series to 6 or 7 games. But I think that is kind of their ceiling this year, in all honesty. But hey, they're playing great at the right time. They could shock the world. The Clippers at number 9. Could they be one spot higher? Absolutely. I'm kind of giving the Knicks the benefit of the doubt with Jalen Brunson out. There we go, right? But for the Clippers, you got James Harden, who has turned back the clock. Kawhi Leonard is now finally coming back to form, and I'm excited for Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs as he's been dropping 25 points here, 33 against my Cavaliers. He's been the offensive dominant Kawhi that we've seen in years past. Of course, he's not playing back-to-backs, but in the playoffs, he's going to have a couple days in between each game, so he should be playing every single game of the playoffs, and I'm excited for this team. If they can get, let's say, 25 points, 20 to 25 a night from Norman Powell, they could shock a team in the first round. The Knicks are at number 8. This is the lowest they've been in my rankings all season long, and it's really just because Jalen Brunson is out. But with that said, they're still finding ways to win some of these big-time games. They've maintained a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, and as of right now, I'm not going to say they're locked into that spot, but they pretty much are. So when Jalen Brunson returns from this injury, How quickly is he going to return to form? Because that's going to be a big question. First round, you might be playing the Pistons, the Pacers, the Bucks, maybe with a healthy Dame back. You could be playing a team that could push you 6 or 7 games, which with Thibodeau's system and how many minutes he plays his guys, you don't really want a long first round series. So for the Knicks, how quickly can Brunson return to form? Because if he can, I think they should be able to make a deep run here in the Eastern Conference playoffs. The Rockets, they're young, they're hungry, and talk about a team that's proving a point this year. I thought they would no doubt make the playoffs. I didn't think they were going to be the top 2 seed in the Western Conference. With their strength of schedule, it does look like they're going to finish with that number 2 seed in the West. And home court advantage for a team that's young, they're hungry, they're going to have the home crowd behind them. They can make it farther than we want to actually admit them going, right, as of this point in time because of their youth and inexperience. But having those advantages in your back pocket is definitely going to be a fuel to push this team farther than maybe where they should go. But as of right now, they're one of the hottest teams in basketball, and they're not getting the credit they deserve. At number 6 is the Denver Nuggets. They have the MVP of the league, and that's why maybe the Nuggets are ahead of some teams below them that they shouldn't be. But the Nuggets at number 6, when you have a guy that averages 30, 10, and 10, you're going to be a title contender in my eyes. And they have just, to me, I know he's not going to get the award, but he would get my vote at Nikola Jokic as far as being the MVP of the NBA this year. And that's no shade to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If they give it to him, I'm completely fine with it. My personal vote would go to 15 there in Denver. But the question with this Denver team, and we'll talk about this next week, is the X factor is not a certain player with this team. It is the collective around Nikola Jokic. When Jokic takes a step off the court, can they survive 5 to 8 minutes stretches with him off the court? Can they survive without going down 10 to 15 points if he decides to take a rest? That's the big question with this Nuggets team going into the playoffs. If they can get a consistent 15 to 18 from MPJ, a consistent 8 to 12 from Aaron Gordon and Russell Westbrook, a consistent 20 to 25 from Jamal Murray, they should be fine. But if not, I don't think this team is going to make it, I guess, as far as they would like to make it. And of course, that means returning to the top of the mountain. And of course, that means winning their second championship in 3 years. But let's get into the top 5. These are teams where I legitimately think, as of right now, if I had to put money on it, I would, because I believe these 5 teams have the experience, they have the superstar level players, they have the quality depth and defense around them, and they have a good enough coaching staff to make a deep run. Let's get into it here, man. The Warriors at number 5, they move up 2 spots. And right now, they're in the middle of the pack in the Western Conference. So they're going to have a tough run getting to the promised land. For the Golden State Warriors, you need Jimmy Butler to turn back the clock, to show that he's a chip on his shoulder, and to give this team 20 to 25 points a night. Even if that comes at the expense of, let's say, he goes from elite defense just down to great defense. So for Jimmy Butler, I think you need that extra boost offensively for this team. You need to be able to win a game every single series for your team by yourself, seemingly, for Jimmy Butler. And let Steph Curry have those off nights or hey, just nights where he's dropping 20 instead of 30, right? If this team can get that version of Jimmy Butler, they can make it to the Western Conference Finals because they have the superstar player. They have a great supporting cast around them, highlighted by Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler. And then they also got the shooters, right? But also they got the veteranship, the experience, the chip on their shoulders to get on top of the mountain yet again for Steph and Draymond's sake. But for Jimmy, he's never been on the top of the mountain. He wants to get there. They also have the coaching staff there in Steve Kerr. They have everything to me, but they need Jimmy Butler to be aggressive offensively, even if that comes at the expense of elite defense. Well, at number 4 is the LA Lakers. If you are a regular listener here on the show, you're probably sick of me raving about my correct prediction last year about the Dallas Mavericks. All year long, I said they were going to make a deep run, maybe to the finals, but honestly, I had them as the Western Conference Finals all season long, right? And that's because of 77. Now, for the Lakers to get a player like that, we all know the impact of it, and we've seen the impact of it. But to get a guy like that that can carry your team to the finals every single year, it's game changing, right? So for this team, the X factor is, I'll say this, it is Austin Reeves, but I will say it in this degree. If they can have Austin Reeves kind of be the secondary offensive option on a nightly basis, that's huge for this team, and it's going to open up. I'll say this, I think it elevates the ceiling of this team because if you can make LeBron kind of like a tertiary option in this offense, and that sounds crazy to say, as he might be the best to ever do it. But if you can have him just kind of like, situationally take over instead of having that mindset of he has to take over all the time and every single possession, that's going to go, I guess, a long way for them. Like kind of like how he played against the Pacers, where he had 3 points going into the fourth quarter, but then the team kind of hit, they kind of stalled out offensively. They needed a punch, and LeBron racked off like 10 to 12 points in the fourth quarter because he knew, hey, this team needs me. It's my time to step up and shine. At his age, I think that's his best spot right now. If he can be a great defender, if he could put a lot of effort in on that side of the court, but then occasionally be that guy offensively, that's going to push this team to finals levels, at least in my opinion. Into the top three, it's been the top three for, I want to say, since what, a December? But for the Cavaliers, they were at number two for some time there, and they are my hometown team. But as you guys know, in these videos, I show no bias to my team. They are the third best team in the league. They are not better than the Boston Celtics, and they are not better than the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, will they put up a fight against these teams? Absolutely, right? They have a very complete team, and they have a better system than they've had in probably the last decade with Kenny Atkinson coming over from Golden State. But for the Cavaliers, when I match them up against the Boston Celtics, I say I just trust Boston more. When we talk about big time shot making ability, that's going to be needed in a tough defensive series like Boston versus Cleveland. And in a series like this, do I trust Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown? Or do I trust Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell? As crazy as that sounds, as a Cavaliers fan, I've watched him in a Cavs uniform. And honestly, I can't name that one notable buzzer beater or one notable late game takeover that led to a win. That's the key point. Led to a win in his Cavaliers career. Now, sure, he's had a history of it back dating to the bubble, but that's 5 years ago to this point. I trust Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to make that late game shot over Donovan Mitchell. And in a series where Donovan Mitchell is going to have to play perfect, it's putting a lot of pressure on him. And honestly, look, the Cavaliers have the big men, they have the defense, and they do have the offense with Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and Donovan Mitchell that can compete with Boston and beat them in a 7-game series. But are they going to do it for a 7-game series and not just 1 or 2 games? That's the big question for me as the Cavaliers fan. It's kind of like, hey, you're great in the regular season, but let's go prove it in the big dance. And honestly, until that happens, Boston is the team to beat, at least in the Eastern Conference. And for Oklahoma City at number one, look, you have the superstar, you have the coaching, you have the depth, you have the great defense, all NBA defense. I mean, you got 3 of them in the starting lineup. You got a Caruso, you got Chet Holmgren, you got Lou Dort. Those are 3 first-team All-NBA caliber defenders next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This team has it all. They have the shooting. They have a little bit of experience as far as last year's playoff run. But can they put it together in a tough Western Conference? Can they, for example, can they knock off Anthony Edwards in the first round? Then go and take down the LA Lakers. Then go take down, let's say, the Denver Nuggets. Those are 3 incredibly tough playoff series back to back to back. And then go to the finals and beat Boston. That's a tough road if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder. But hey, they've been dominant all year. Can that translate? That's the big question. Outside of that, though, if I had to make a prediction, who is my NBA Finals favorite as of April or end of March, early April? It's still the Boston Celtics. They're the team to beat. They've been all year. Until they are knocked off the top of the mountain, it's kind of hard a team can replace them, right? But that's going to do it. Episode 266, my April NBA Power Rankings. The playoffs are right around the corner. And hey, we're going to have our predictions coming up pretty soon. But also, X Factors next week. Stay tuned for that.